I would like to introduce our last and next speaker, Raquel, from CRS Advogados, who would be speaking on the topic Residence and Investment Program in Portugal. Raquel, maybe you can share your screen.
Sure. I just would like to start by appreciating your invitation to be present here today and to share a little bit of the legal insights of the residency and investment programs that we have here in Portugal. And to all the attendees also, feel free to share the questions that you have. And also because I have been seeing, maybe I can also confirm that the presentations will be shared afterwards by Bosco, who will organize this event. And regarding our own presentation, it's a little bit dense because we believe that there's a lot of information that should be shared by legal advisors like myself. And because on the news and all world, there's a lot of misinformation. So some of the information here, I'm just touching the hot topics, but in the complete one, you will be able to access it, okay? So we are a Portuguese law firm based in Lisbon, both with the office in Lisbon and Oporto and Algarve. I'm one of the founding partners of our law firm, and we are a full service law firm. So we just don't attend the part of the immigration. We cover all the services related with anything that you may need in terms of legal matters in Portugal. As I was saying in the beginning, when I presented myself, there are different types of residency permits, and I'm going to touch just a little bit the ones that in fact can be a chosen project in case if you really want to relocate and live in Portugal. So there are different types of visas, and when I say visas, in fact, we are speaking about residency permits. So the legal way that allows you to come, relocate and live in Portugal. We have the D1, which is for employed persons. So whoever has accepted the offer and starts working in Portugal can join and stay in Portugal. This application and all the other ones that you will be seeing start right now with the Portuguese consulate in the location of origin. So it's not in Portugal anymore that you start the process, it's abroad. So if you are considering relocating to Portugal, you must start the process before the Portuguese consulate in the country where you are live. And this D1 and the other ones that I'm going to mention, except for the golden visa, make it mandatory for you to cannot be outside of Portugal for 6 consecutive months or 8 interspread months within the validity of the residency card. So this means that you in fact must live in Portugal. Besides the D1, we have the D2 or the well-known self-entrepreneur visa, which is someone that is planning to relocate to Portugal and bring your own business here or incorporate your own business in Portugal. We also have the startup visa, which has an original for whoever has an original and innovative project to be developed in Portugal, and under some criteria can be considered to be eligible for a visa. Also, you have the high qualified D3 visa, and this high qualified can apply to you if you are framed within the Portuguese Code of Professions as a high qualified professional. Also, we have the tech visa, so whoever framed in a high qualified employer, so it's the same as the D3, but here different, it's not yourself in terms of what you're developing, but where you are developing it. Of course, that when you are hired for this kind of companies, it is expected that you fulfill also the criteria to be under the availability to purchase in the end of the tech visa. Also, and I would say most likely one of the most famous visas in Portugal is the D7, which is the passive income. So whoever plans to move to Portugal and basically can prove that can afford him or herself here in Portugal based on passive incomes obtained abroad can also apply for a visa to relocate to Portugal. Also, we have the digital nomad visa, which has been growing a lot, namely during the COVID times and the changes that it would brought to all of us worldwide, and the possibility of working remotely to anywhere and from everywhere in the world. So this is also a valid way for you if you want to relocate and are working in this type of field to come to Portugal. And finally, the only one that doesn't make it mandatory for you to necessarily relocate to Portugal, it is the Golden Visa, which is the main presentation that I'll be speaking and share your information with you today. So the Golden Visa, because it's like the famous name, is in fact an investment residency permit. So it means that you really need to make an investment for you to reside or to get this residency permit in Portugal. It is considered golden because in fact the card is not golden, it is in fact pink. But jokes aside, truth is that it is a way really used by a lot of investors, namely not just looking at Portugal, but a gateway to Europe, because one of the things that the Golden Visa brings along is the freedom of movement within the entire Schengen countries. So you can do that if you are a holder of this Golden Visa. Portugal has been one of the, I would say, one of the top countries regarding the Golden Visa, not just because of the Golden Visa itself, but because it allows you after to get the Portuguese citizenship. And the Portuguese passport is a top-notch passport that currently, let's see what this 2025 brings in terms of changes worldwide, but allows you to enter in 186 countries in Portugal. Also allows you to bring, just with one investor, do a family reunification, which means that you can, by one investment, bring, for example, your in-laws, your parents, your descendants, and your spouse. In terms of the Golden Visa timeline itself, the Golden Visa is composed and is a 5-year program. And once you have done your first application, you will receive a card that it's valid for 2 years. And within these 2 years, you have a minimum 14 days stay in Portugal. So within minimum period, compared, for example, with the other visas, you just need to stay average in Portugal 7 complete days here. Close to the end of the validity of the first card, you should apply and ask for the renewal. This renewal, they will give you a second card, which is also valid currently for 2 years, and also the minimum 14 days stay in Portugal. The same process applies for the second renewal, where you will receive a third card, currently also being issued for the period of 2 years, with a minimum period of stay of 14 days in Portugal. Basically, 5 years, counting from the day of the application, you can start your process to apply for the Portuguese citizenship. So once you have learn a little bit how the program itself in terms of timeline works, and if you decide to come and invest in the Portuguese program, the step-by-step, and there's a big disclaimer here because the IMA, which is currently the name of our immigration office, is facing a huge delay because we had some internal structure and restructure of this entity, as well as a lot of demand because we had a big law change. So there was a lot of investors that rushed up their process. But truth to be told is that in the beginning of this year, it was announced that they are changing the way that they are analyzing the program, and they expect to have it done almost 100% in terms of digital and electronic remote ways to facilitate and speed up the processes. But I would say that you can count between 60 and 90 days when you decide and start the initial formalities and make the investment to make the submission. At least 8 months between the online submission and the analysis made by the immigration office. When you will be called to be in Portugal for the biometrics, so they need to collect your fingerprints, your signature, and so on. After, you will be notified of the final approval. Once you have paid the final analysis fees, your card will be issued. As I was saying, this is what it is expected, but of course we know that currently the delay and the backlog that the immigration office is facing is huge. Nevertheless, we are confident that this year they will speed up the way that everything is being processed, and I know that this can most likely be the I would say the big I would say, the big disappointment for the majority of the investors. But the truth to be told is that also please note that from the date of submission, the 5 years for the passport counts. So it's a way of waiting a little bit more to receive the card. But on the other hand, you have the 5 years ticking from the day that you submit, regardless of the waiting time. In terms of the investments that we can use to make the Portuguese Golden Visa, currently we have the opportunity to create at least 10 job positions. Either you can choose to transfer at least 500,000 euros to be applied in research activities carried out by public or private institutions of scientific research. You can also choose to make a capital transfer, which is commonly known as a donation of 250 euros to be applied in the investment or the support of artistic production, recovery, or maintenance of national cultural heritage. These entities that manage these kind of programs are pre-approved by the government, and if located in a low density area, in fact, the amount drops from 250k to 200. The other option that you have is the transfer of capital of at least 500,000 euros intent to purchase non-real estate units of participation in a collective investment entities, so commonly known as the funds. Or you can also transfer the capital of 500,000 euros to incorporate or to reinforce the share capital of a Portuguese company, combined with the creation of 5 permanent jobs, at least the creation of 5 permanent jobs, or maintenance of at least 10 job positions within a minimum of 5 permanent employees, and for at least 3 years. I would say, and the presentation will be addressing a little bit more the investment of the Portuguese Golden Visa regarding funds, because I would say that it is commonly, I would say 95% of our clients are choosing the fund route to make this investment. So regarding the funds options, you must at least transfer 500,000 euros. These funds are meant for the purchase of units of investment in these funds, but these funds cannot be real estate related. So each fund that intends to invest directly in real estate investments to promote, for example, the development and construction of any kind of real estate, it's not eligible in terms of the current law in force. These funds must at least have a maturity of 5 years, and 60% of the investment made by the fund must be made in commercial companies headquartered in Portugal. Also, and the question that we get asked a lot, you can choose, because it's investment funds, there's also, of course, the financial aspect related here, and the risk of the type of the investment that each fund will make. You can split the investment in, for example, 2 or 3 funds, counting that at least you can prove to the immigration office that you invested 500,000 euros. In terms of the step-by-step, so you decide to make the investment, and now what? It's what you need to understand. So you have decided to make the investment in the funds, for example. So the first step is for you to obtain the Portuguese tax number. Kindly note that the fact that you attend the Portuguese tax number, this number will work as an ID number for you in Portugal. And if you will not relocate yourself to Portugal, meaning if within a period of 12 months you don't spend here more than 6 months, you are not deemed to be tax resident, which means that you don't have any tax compliance obligations to fulfill here, except of course if you decide to do other type of investments and have Portuguese sourced income, but that's common applicable to anyone that invests in Portugal, being non-resident. Once you get the Portuguese tax number, you need to open a Portuguese bank account, and the Portuguese bank account must be under the name or the holder of the one who will be making the Golden Visa investment. And the reason is simple, is because you need to transfer the money from abroad to your Portuguese bank account, because of one of the mandatory documents that you will need for you when you apply for for the IMA is in fact a statement from the Portuguese bank account stating that you transferred the money from abroad, because the Portuguese Golden Visa was a way for Portugal to be able to obtain investment from abroad. Once you have your bank account set up, you will need to pay the subscription fee, sign all the fund documents, and the funds in Portugal, for your information, are subject to strict compliance rules. So you will be asked to do a know your customer preparation. So all your information, because we are subject to AML compliance rules. So apart even from the bank, also for the funds will request this kind of information for you, such as where you obtained the amount, where you were investing in, why, what do you do for a living, and so on. Once you have made these formalities before the funds, you will need to transfer from abroad to your Portuguese bank account the minimum amount, so the 500,000 euros. Then use your Portuguese bank account to transfer the money into the funds or the funds where you want to invest. And these funds and the bank itself will issue the statements saying that, for example, you invested in this fund, this amount of money, and the Portuguese bank will also issue the statement saying that you transferred the money from abroad. So these documents combined will be the ones that you will show and prove before the immigration office that the investment was duly made according to the Portuguese rules for the Golden Visa. In terms of general requirements for the Portuguese Golden Visa, you need to keep the investment while you are under the program. You need to enter in Portugal with a valid Schengen visa. You need to be absent of conviction of a relevant crime, and you need to comply with the minimum stay requirements in Portugal, which I was saying it's average 7 days a year in Portugal. Those days must be complete. Don't forget about it. In terms of costs per person, so because you can apply for yourself and your family as well. Currently, these amounts are updated, but you have here an idea. So the first application, when you start the process, you will pay 680 euros and 60 cents, the same per family member, just for the immigration office to analyze your process. After, you will pay 6,179 euros and 40 cents per applicant on the final approval, and for each renewal per applicant, so yourself or each family member, 3,090 euros and 40 cents. The Golden Visa main benefits are, like I would say the most common one is the freedom of travel, visa-free throughout the Schengen area. So it's not European countries, but also the ones that belong to the Schengen area. The qualifying criteria, it's quite simple if you fulfill the general requirements that we mentioned. You can do at the same time of as the main investor, do immediately the family reunion, so the process can be analyzed altogether. In terms of the ones that don't want or cannot relocate right now to Portugal, you have the freedom of just need to spend 40 days per 7 days a year, 14 days in a row for each validity period of the card. I would say it's not difficult to come to Portugal and spend 7 days here. So this one is also quite interesting for you to fulfill. In terms of the program is not blacklisted by the OECD model, so it's a well validated and top-notch Golden Visa program. You have also assistance from the National Healthcare system in Portugal, as well as you can enroll your children in the Portuguese public system of education. You can work, stay, take your time off here in Portugal as long as you want. And also after the 5 years, you have the possibility to apply for the Portuguese citizenship. Also, sometimes clients, for several reasons, for example, I was listening to the question asked about, for example, the situation with Indian investors that don't want to abdicate from their Indian citizenship. Some of our clients really want to relocate and stay in Portugal, but they don't want to be always allocated to to the golden visa because, for example, they invested the amount of money, the fund will be closed anytime soon, and they want to relocate to Portugal, but don't lose their passport entity, their Indian passport. So what they can do is that after the 5 years, they can convert the permanent residency. They can convert the golden visa, which is qualified as a temporary residency permit, into a permanent residency after 5 years of the program. Also, as I was saying, and I think this is one of the main reasons, apart from Portugal being a really tiny, small country with amazing and different landscapes and an amazing cultural, and really open to receive foreigners and being able to melt a little bit all the cultures. I would say that one of the main reasons why the Portuguese passport, the Portuguese program for the Golden Visa is so famous is because indeed you can apply for the Portuguese citizenship and therefore have the Portuguese passport after the 5 years of the investment of the golden visa. For you to apply for the Portuguese citizenship is not automatically, so you need to prove that in the prior 5 years you had a legal residency, which the golden visa qualifies, but also for that you need to be of age or emancipated under the Portuguese law. You need to have and prove that you have enough sufficient knowledge of the Portuguese language, and this is one of the questions, and I think one of the stages that the majority of our clients are more afraid is because I don't speak Portuguese, how can I do it? So you can either do a Portuguese A2 level Portuguese test, which is like a small basic Portuguese level, but you can also attend online or at a distance or in person Portuguese lessons in pre-approved and authorized entities that will allow you to have a diploma, and therefore you can also prove that you know enough Portuguese by just fulfill the minimum hours of those Portuguese lessons. You cannot have been convicted of a crime punishable under the Portuguese law with imprisonment to a maximum equal to 3 years or more. As I was saying, you need also to, during the period of the application, to have a valid residency permit. So it is essential for you to understand that, in fact, and we have done here a lot of golden visas applying for citizenship. So this is a reality. It's not fake news. In fact, it works, and you can apply for the Portuguese citizenship, and we always recommend that even during the period of waiting time for you to get the passport, to maintain the permanent or the temporary residency that you used to apply for the passport. In terms of the golden visa in Portugal, we are a political stability, despite that we may have our political disagreements. We are centered parties country, so it is not expected in terms of extremes that we can currently see working worldwide, namely with several countries currently. We have a safety environment, and Portugal has been having a consolidated economy and a growing real estate market, and plus the advantage, obviously, of the freedom of movement within the Schengen area. Our team at CRS Law Firm is combined by myself as one of the founding partners of the law firm, and have been working in this field for more than 10 years. Also with Gustavo, Natasha, and Claudia, and we will be joining Bosco in Istanbul next May 12th. So feel free to drop in case you want to meet us in person, or to reach us if you need any further information. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Raquel, for your wonderful presentation. I hope everyone wants to go to Portugal now.
You're more than welcome to stay here.
We do have actually quite a few questions. So the first one, do I need to have a bank account in Portugal, and what types of documents they require to prove my income?
So it depends on the goal. If you are just a non-resident that wants, for example, to invest in the Portuguese real estate markets, which, for example, we have a lot of Turkish clients that are investing in Portugal because they believe in the real estate market in Portugal. They want to take, for example, money out of Turkey, and legally they can do it, even prove to the Turkish central bank that they are purchasing a property here. So if you want to purchase a property in Portugal just per investment and being non-resident, you don't need to be the holder of a bank account because there are other ways. For example, you can use the notary to make the payment to the seller, or for example, as lawyers, we have like specific type of bank accounts to hold under the name of the client, fees and amounts for this end. Different thing is if you decide to relocate to Portugal under any type of the D visa types that I mentioned, or if you want to do a golden visa investment, you in fact need to open a Portuguese bank account. The Portuguese bank account, I would say, currently is the one that is taking longer in terms, besides obviously the immigration office delay, but because there are a huge scrutiny for this. So the base documents that the bank requests is like your criminal record. They want proof of the way that you have the money and what your goal in having the Portuguese bank account, your last tax return, if you are a politically exposed person, and so on. So I would say that the basic documents are quite standard for any type of bank account opening. Then, depending on the region you are coming from or from where you want to transfer the money, the banks may ask a few additional questions. I always say to our clients, don't take this personally because it's not you that they are aiming. They are just following the anti-money laundering requirements that we have in Portugal. And also, sorry, Pauline, if I may add, it is relevant for you to know that currently in Portugal, you can open bank accounts at a distance. So all the type of the investment for the golden visa that I was explaining, you can do it at a distance. You don't need to be physically in Portugal if you hire a legal representative for you to do so. In fact, the first time that you need to be here is when you do the biometrics, because it's simple. I can't do the fingerprints for you. So you really need to be here. But apart from that, I think it's relevant because some clients believe that they need to be here physically and they don't.
Okay, thank you, Raquel. I think that was a useful information for our audience. And we do have another question. Question from Leo. If I will get a golden visa residency permit, is it possible to my family also get it? And how many family members can join this program?
This is a good question. So I was explaining in the presentation that you can do the family reunion at any point. So imagine you just got married and 1 year after you have a kid. You decide to start your own family project. So even after 1 year, you can add. In terms of the people, what is considered the family members to the Portuguese law are the spouse, are, if not legally married, but if you can prove that you live under a civil union, so just like in the same conditions, but not formally married, if you can prove that, you can also add that person. Children. In terms of the children, we always need to be aware of the age of the children. So if they are under 18 years old, no problem, no additional information besides standard proving that they are in fact your children. If they are more than 18 years old, you need to prove that they are single, that they are financially dependent on the parents, and that they are students. So sometimes the borderline comes when you have a kid, for example, with a 22 or 23 years old, but you know that in the next 2, 3, 4 years, they will be doing a master's and not working because the parents will still sponsorship. In that case, you can still add them. So also happens a lot. People start doing the golden visa, and after 3 or 4 years, the children grow up and they want to start working and so on. So in this case, if they don't fulfill the criteria, this specific family member drops, but the golden visa remains as it was for any other family members as well as the main investor. You can also add your parents or your parents-in-law. The only thing that you need to be aware is their age. If they are under 65 years old, you need to prove that they are financially dependent on you. For example, that they live on you, that you pay for imagine their rent or their pension or whatever. If they are more than 65 years old, the Portuguese law automatically presumes that they are dependent. So if they are more than 65, you don't need to prove that. And as I was saying, we had cases where for example, the father is 64. We prefer to wait 1 year and then we submit because we don't need to prove any of the financial independence.
Okay, thank you. And one more question. Is it possible to open bank accounts in Portugal for Russians who have alternative citizenship? Is it possible to avoid an opening a bank account in Portugal and transfer money directly to the fund from abroad?
Okay, those are two separate questions. The first question regarding the Russians, there are still some European limitations that Portugal complies with. So some type of golden visa investments are not allowed currently for Russian passport holders. Unfortunately, and currently, the law is still real strict in terms of the fact that you may be, for example, a Russian passport holder and a Turkish passport holder. The simple fact that you have a passport from Russia won't allow you, for example, to invest in the funds because they are public subject to scrutiny. So this wouldn't be allowable. But for example, the donations, we have had some of them done for Russian clients. In terms of the opening of the bank account, there is not necessarily any restriction. And banks are starting to facilitate. When I say facilitate, I don't want to be misunderstood, but in the sense of there's not currently any forbidden regime to open a bank account for Russian clients, so you can open. Different is if the bank itself wants to have any kind of relationship with a Russian client. So I would say each case is a case. We have the same situation, for example, from Iran. So if it's a client that was born in Russia but lived his whole life in the United States, which is really common, and we have been receiving a lot of those requests here in the office, truth is that they can do it. And banks have been opening. Of course, they request additional information, but again, they would request to any kind of client in the same situation. In terms of the funds itself, in my presentation, I was explaining, and we always recommend for the bank account to exist under the name of the holder, also because the funds pay dividends and so on, and you will be able to control them. However, there are some fund entities that have opened what we called a whale account, which is a specific type of bank account that allows the funds to have identified in those accounts which name of each investor. So some funds are selling this as an opportunity to make the investment, and you can do it. However, I don't recommend. I think you need your own bank account. You need to have your units of participation to be able to control themselves anytime that you want. You log in online on your bank account, you see that your units are there, that everything is under your name. Maybe the way that I am in terms of profiling a little bit more strict here, and I think lawyers, they tend to facilitate a lot of things, but when it comes to the part of the ownership and knowing what's yours, I always recommend you to open a Portuguese bank account.
Okay, thank you for such a detailed answer. And the last question I believe we have is if one has invested into eligible real estate in the past but did not start the Golden Visa progress, would he still be eligible to use that property, or now with the new program, it's not valid anymore?
Unfortunately, no. When the law was changed and entered into force in October 6, 2023, it precisely said that the submissions had to be made. So unfortunately, what this person can do is either sell the investment and use that money, for example, to do other type of currently enforced legal options for the investment for the Golden Visa, or do another kind of investment as well.